welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. I'm your host, Hanna Nuss. Sometimes I say that, sometimes I don't. Here we are. We shouldn't be surprised by that anymore, which you probably aren't. Okay, let's go ahead and ground ourselves in our greatness. You know, the daily practice of recognizing, just how amazing you are. Super important, as we begin to restructure, reignite, and start living the lives that we can see in our heads. Today I wanted to hit on this very important fact, and this is a shift that I have been championing for this year, for 2020. And so this is a mental shift that has to happen for me, and I've been working on it. And yesterday I just saw it all happen, all align. And when you're given those moments, we have to trust those, right? Like, this is meant to show us something. And for me, that's a hard shift, right? You can go down a faith path. You can walk that faith path and just trust and know. And that was a good portion of last year's journey. And now it's that second level. It's where we're not even doubting that it's going to happen anymore. And so it's faith and trust and belief, right? And in order for those things to happen, in order for that to play out, you have to ask, right? And we've talked about the ask before. And for me, it's an ask without exception, knowing full well that when I ask for something, it will be returned to me if I truly believe that it will be. And that seems like such a simple concept. Like, yeah, I get it. But it's in that split second that you ask. And where I would have normally asked and then went, that's never going to happen. I'm working to really remove that, right? Really remove that initial thought. Really get myself into just pure belief, intention, and mental acceptance that it is real. Credence, my good friends. Credence. Like, it needs to be posted everywhere. It's just like, I think now, hopefully written on the backs of my eyelids so that we aren't doubting anymore. Mental acceptance that this is true or real. And really, for me, I've seen so much proof of that as I have challenged that, right? And begun asking for things that are completely unrealistic, but knowing how that aligns with what my intention is, right? So I set the intention to be present, and I've set that intention probably 3 years ago. And so that's what I can ask for. That's one of the things that I'll ask for. Hey, I know that you don't want this for me either, right? And so I'm going to ask that we get guided out of this moment where I'm not allowed to be present in a moment. I know that that's not meant for me. I know that those aren't spaces meant for me. So, right? Help me. Give me something. Do something, because I'm doing what you're asking. And that doesn't come with, but I know it's unrealistic, and I know this is probably never going to happen, and I really believe that you could do it, but I get that that's like a tall ask, and it's a very short turnaround, and it probably is never going to happen. We have to remove that second part, and that's the struggle, right? Because that conversation happens so much up in our head, and it's so automatic in so many of us. Like, trust. I've been in this faith space, let's see, since probably March of last year. It's been like, okay, I trust, I believe. And just now, right, almost a year later, it's like, okay, we saw so much proof. It was delivered for us time and time again. We had all the signs, and you're still second guessing it, right? Like, there's a mental shift that has to happen. And you'll experience that shift, and you'll understand what it's like to never be able to go back to that mental space anymore where other people get stuck. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, because it's hard, right? It's hard when you've experienced that level up moment and you're mentally in a different place than a lot of the people that you're around, right? And that's why they talk about the importance of your circle. But there's a chance that your circle hasn't leveled up yet either. And what do? Just run from everyone? Right? We're going to get into that. But it does become a struggle for sure. And I think true to the entirety of this journey, true to where I'm at in my space, is like, it's personal. One doesn't have to impact the other, right? And I can't save anyone from that space. And that's been a really hard pill for me to swallow, trust. Like, I started this podcast wanting to save people. Come on. Right? And I know that that's neither the job of this podcast nor what's possible. Right? I'm happy to be a catalyst to any one move that you make in your life, or to a million moves that you make in your life. But I'm not the one changing your life. You are. And so once you take that weight off of whatever that is, right, you begin to understand that it's not your job to fix things, to fix other people. Like, your job is just to remain consistent on your own journey and paying attention to your own energies and the impact that that has on others in other spaces, and impact where you can, right? And and you can ask and truly believe that what is meant for you will come to you when it's supposed to, right? And so when you're walking in that, and that's higher level shift, that's big time moves in a direction, right? And it's a risky one. So many people are going to come at you and say, yeah, but blah, da, 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 da. No. It's real. The second that you change that frequency, the second that you start walking in that path, everything just starts to fall in place. And it's as simple and as complicated as not questioning it. Knowing that what's made for you will find you releases the tension of disbelief that follows, putting out anything crazy, right? Wanting things that you feel like are too far out of your reach. It's not just faith, right? It's faith and true acceptance. And that's just another level. That's a frequency gain. That's a whole different shift than, this baseline of have faith and ask for signs. That's one level. The second level is not even having to ask for signs, right? Because you believe that it's made for you. And so that frequency gets matched, and all of a sudden, just starts attracting to you. You can't even help it. It's so magnetic. It hurts your feelings, because you're just like, really? I could have done this before. Okay, cool. Sheesh. Right? And that's why I started with this idea that I don't want to wake up and be 50 and realize that I could have done this the whole time, and that I wish that I would have started at 20, because shoot, I'm at 30 right now and I'm wishing that I would have started this at 20. Because I could have. And so don't question it. See if you can, like we talked about yesterday, see where that thought's coming from. We've done a lot of work on limiting beliefs, on limits, on that shadow work is how it's termed in the spiritual world. Those things, that constant voice that's in there. Yesterday when we talked about controlling thought, this this is where that becomes imperative. This is where the application is super important, right? Because you're going to ask for the thing, you're going to put it out there, and the mental energy you put behind starting or stopping that is super important. And so that starts with conscious thought, understanding and knowing and having enough control of what's going in and what's coming out. And you think that that's not a powerful energy shift, and you're absolutely wrong. Even your thoughts have an energy. And so if what you're putting out there, right, is constantly positive and it's all, going in the right direction, but what you're thinking out there isn't in alignment with that, it's going to impact you negatively. It will. It doesn't seem like it would because it's just all up here. And trust me, the more physical balance that you can put in energetically balancing yourself to the positive, great. But if we're counteracting that with negative thought, we're only going to get so far. And we'll see, right? This is the year 2021. This will be the year that I mentally accept that this life that I want to live is real and true for me. And so if we start to see level up, it's because of that. It's because we stopped questioning it. And yesterday I just saw so much proof of that it was insane. And so that's my great thing. It's just like no more questioning. Period. Go ahead and take time for yourself. Recognize yourself for your great thing. You don't have to break it down to this intensity, but the more you do, the better you'll be. The more the world can align with your greatness, right? It's a frequency output. Come on. You are capable of manifesting all the greatness you want into your life. Are you willing to just start here? This is like baby step. But it will pay dividends as you start to shift. Trust. You will start calling it in. Okay. Today we're talking about frequency and friendships. And hello, this is very important because your tribe, right? We've all heard that. Whoever you surround yourself, the 5 closest people to you will show your own trajectory. And this is something that I was extremely challenged with when I first started this, because it seemed like everybody that I kind of acknowledged as the strongest people around me kind of ran from me and thought that I had maybe even gone insane, right? And trust that this is kind of a normal, true experience that a lot of people who go down a different path have, right? And this is what I want to talk about today. That frequency match. Sometimes they're retreating because they just aren't on that level. It's not because they have anything against you, even if they say things like, and all of the things that they're likely going to say are either out of protection for you or out of hate for themselves. But they don't probably hate you. They probably don't. And some people do. But most of those people who retreat, if they're true and real, they're just retreating to find how to match you. And we talked about that a little bit, but today is kind of the expansion of that thought. Right? They're going inward. They're trying to find themselves. They're trying to find what you found. And here's the most important part of all of this. So if you take nothing else away, please take this. Do not burden them with your expectation of what you want out of them as your friend. Right? Because especially those people who are going inward, who are really trying to match your frequency, that's a heavy weight to lift on top of what they're already experiencing. And it's not your job to get them there. In fact, your attempt to do that is 1, distracting yourself from your own frequency, and 2, you don't have the answers for them. You have the answers for you. And I know that it seems like if you're super close with this person, like, no, I've known them their whole life. Trust me, I know that this book is going to work for them. Trust me, I know that this saying is going to work for them. Trust me, like, please, right? You don't know. You don't know. And this is where really some Mariah Carey type vibes come in, and it's super important to just know. Is it Mariah Carey? If it comes back, it's yours, and that's how you know. Nope, Christina Aguilera. It's for keeps, yeah, it's for sure. If I'm ready, you're willing to give me more than what a girl wants. Okay, it's Christina Aguilera. Although that may be in a Mariah Carey lyric or two. Okay. Sometimes we just have to let those people go. And we can't bring down their energy or our energy in an attempt to save them from the journey that they have to go on for themselves, right? And the timing of whatever you needed may help them, but it may help them at a different point. And so most importantly, you stay consistent with your path. You stay consistent and true to your own energy, and you let people gravitate in and out towards you as they work on increasing their own frequency to match you, or they work on decreasing their energy to run away from you. And both paths are okay. That is not for you to decide, right? It is not for you to decide who is for you and who is against you. Stay true. Stay steady. Stay consistent. Those people who are, really negatively charged towards your forward motion, they're not going to end up on the good side. And that's unfortunate, but that's also not your job. You can't save everyone. You can't level up people's frequencies for them. They have to do that work themselves. They have to push play on that workout or on that podcast or on that audiobook. Like you can't do it for them, and you can't find what's meant for them. You can't. And you may give good stepping stones, but you can't map it. You can't. And honestly, any attempt to do that really hurts both of you because it stops you from your forward moving progress. It hurts your own energetic being, right? Because you're decharging yourself to try to give someone else charge. And honestly, at the end of the day, you're probably going to end up feeling really burnt out and exhausted, because you're pouring all your energy into someone else and unfulfilled. Because really, at the end of the day, you're not probably going to be the person to help them or save them. They are going to have to save themselves. And even if you give them every single material and every single thing, they have to make that mental shift. You cannot do it for them. It is not possible. Because it's not about what they're doing outward. It's not about the books. It's not about the podcasts. It's not about the workouts. It's not about the food they eat. It's not about any of those external things. While those are all contributing factors, bottom line, it's really about that mental shift. And you aren't there. You don't know. Right? And you can't know. And you will never know unless you can read people's minds, which, some of us can, so let's give ourselves a break. But even if you can hear that mental shift is not happening, still not yours to do. Still not yours to manage. If people can't match your frequency, it's okay to let them go and to have them come back. And to not feel like you have to teach in those moments to bring them back up. Right? Like you're expelling your own energy. You're hurting your energetic rise. And people will find their frequencies if they want to stay with you. They will. And they'll come back. They'll come back, they'll come back, they'll come back. And sometimes they'll come back in just to like test that frequency. Like, hey, I know what you've been doing. I know what's going on. I've been gravitating around it. I'm not quite ready, but like, what's going on? I want to test, are you actually making these shifts? Is this a real person? Is this a real thing? Or is it not? Right? And so your job in that moment where we all think, right? Like, ooh, this is the moment. Ooh, they came back. Ooh, I'm going to be able to tell them all the things that I've done, and I'm going to level them up, and they're going to come join me, and I'm so ready. And you bring like just this big old stack of books, and you're like, okay, this is what I read first, this is what I read second, this is what I read third, and these things changed my life, and that's exactly what you have to do. And if you're ready, go ahead, like, let's go. I'm so here for you. Here are all my books. I brought them for you. I stamped them so you can give them back after you're done. These are from my personal library, but like, then just, email me every day, because I'm so ready for your level up, and I'm going to pay all of my attention to making sure that you level up your frequency. No. That first meeting back, if someone comes back to you to test your frequency, to see, your job is not to teach there. Put the books away. I know, trust, I'm still learning this path. I'm still learning my own energy here. Trust. I can only speak to that because I've gone to the meeting with the bag of books, hoping to lead and teach someone out of their own energy frequency that is low and not matching of mine. And it doesn't work. Why? Why doesn't it work? We wanted to. We do. We love these people. We love the people in our lives. We want the best for them, obviously. Hello? I don't know. Whether it's your family member, whether it's your best friend, like whether it's your spouse, you want all good things for them, which is what makes it hard to not try to impact their energy level, right? Their frequency. It's so hard because you think that you're sitting there, right? I'm just sitting on top of all these books. I have the perfectly planned process that works perfectly for me. Like, this is what you have to do. This is who you need to do. I would say the biggest thing I would wait for is the ask, right? And that's really hard because we're trained and in tune to put ourselves out there, to ask for things for ourselves, to make sure that we're being assertive, to make sure that we are signing up for ourselves. And the greatest thing that you can do with friendships and frequencies is wait for that ask and allow them to guide that journey, right? So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to sit down at lunch or at coffee or whatever that looks like for you. And they're going to say, oh, you're maybe going to start it and you're going to say, what's going on? How are you? Blah, 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 blah. Little small talky things. And they're going to talk about what's going on and how they're doing. And they're going to ask you, so what's going on? How are you doing? And you're going to say, blah, 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 blah. The next step is where I really need you to sit and just listen, right? And this, I have lost enough of these battles to better understand my own ego and the ego that I've brought to meetings. And I think, one of the greatest gifts and messages that I had delivered really early on with this podcast was that, Hanna, you're not forcing this down people's throats. You're going to allow this to grow as it's supposed to. Right. And so luckily, even though my ego was like, tell them about your podcast, tell them about your podcast, tell them about your podcast. Do they know about your podcast? For whatever reason, something was just guiding me away from being that person, from making this podcast that. And I think that really gave it space for it to find people and trust every single person that I was impacted by. I wanted them to take this journey with me, but I knew that I couldn't put them on that train. I knew that that wasn't necessarily going to speak to their specific situation. Now, if they want to listen and maybe get guidance and maybe just have someone hang out with every day as they go on this journey, great, right? But if they aren't ready, that's not really for me to know or judge. And you'll know what ready looks like because they'll just ask. Like, they will. I know it doesn't seem like they will, but they'll ask. So, what book did you read to get started? Right? And that's when you can have that conversation. But don't come in thinking that, oh my gosh, they're reaching back out. Like, yay, they're ready to go. They may not be. Right? And allow them to navigate that with you. Allow them to wave in and out to test your frequency, and sometimes honestly just to test their own. Am I even ready? I've had a lot of meetings with people who are like, yep, I'm ready. And then we meet and then they go back and they just decide like, nope. And I think that that's just pure check, right? Like, yeah, I really was. And then I just wasn't. And they'll know. They'll know when they're ready. And so your biggest job is just really focus on your own energy. And I know that that seems so ego-driven and so opposite of what you're supposed to do, because I know a lot of us who have been placed on this world, myself included, right? We think that that's our job. We have to save the world from themselves. And you will save the world by saving yourself. If you think that you have that call, I dare you. I actually just ask you and myself to just save yourself. Just save yourself. Focus on that more than focusing on the saving of other people. And I almost think that the saving of other people really is a distraction for yourself to avoid the hard work that you're going to have to go through to save your own self. Right? And some of us completely avoid that. And I totally get avoiding the depths. Honestly, if the coronavirus had never happened, I would have never had the awakening that I had, and that really set off the domino effect of me going inward and starting to save myself and stopping all this nonsense about saving everyone else. Like, this work period is about saving myself. And that's why it's not going to save anyone. It can't save you. It can't. And it can't save any of my friends. And it can't save any of my family members. It can save me. Period. And as you start to walk that path and you start to walk that truth and you start to focus on your own frequency, you will probably see some people running from the light that you are becoming. And I promise you, the ones that are for you will come back. And the ones that are against you, their light will continue to dim. And that's not yours to save or focus on, because that's only going to distract you from the energy that you need to focus inward, right? That you need to find your own frequency. And so as we start to think about that, stop. Today, let's all just stop trying to save people. We can't. Their path is so specific. It's so beautifully planned and timed that us trying to impact any of that is just silly. Those who are made for you will come back. And that's true not only of people, but also of places and things and all the dreams that you have. It's coming back for you. You just have to level your frequency in order for it to be returned, in order for those people to come back and understand what you're putting out so they can match it. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.